huge Wall Street insider has just published a new report on Bitcoin, and you're gonna want to see it. A lot of people think Bitcoin bouncing to 79K this morning is just a bear trap, but this report is suggesting that we could be seeing something bigger brewing that might catch a lot of people offside. So we're going to dive into this report by NASDAQ, which manages, actually, I just learned this morning, they are U.S. Bank's sub-custodial manager. U.S. Bank holds about $11 trillion in assets. So when they publish something, when they publish this report, people listen, and I think you should too. NASDAQ has been a Wall Street Bitcoin company since 2017. The CEO, Ross Stevens, used to work at Goldman Sachs. He's a well-connected person, so I think this report does have some weight to it. I think there is some very good analysis here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Obviously, if you guys want to read it, go on NASDAQ. But I do want to compare, before I get to the report, what we're seeing from the mainstream news this morning, because there is literally the same headline going around everywhere. So here's Yahoo Finance. Bitcoin jumps to 78K. As Trump extends Iran ceasefire. We have CoinDesk. Bitcoin climbs to $78,000 on Trump ceasefire extension. Of course, Strategy's $2.5 billion buy. We have Bloomberg. Same headline, basically. Bitcoin rises on optimism over Trump's extended Iran ceasefire. I even saw Wall Street Journal say something very similar, that Bitcoin's climbing because of the Iran ceasefire. Now, I do, in fact, believe to some extent that is probably one of the reasons why we are seeing the Bitcoin price rip, why markets are feeling a little better. And if you guys aren't really familiar, if you're not following what Trump is tweeting, sorry, hold on, guys. I need to change this light real quick. I'm looking a little pale. So if you're not following the Trump tweets, then maybe you are not necessarily aware of everything. There we go. Look, I got a little color back. Everything that he says and why the markets are reacting. Essentially, the short of it is Trump basically said we're going to be in this indefinite ceasefire with Iran until these deals get, hashed through, get inked, get signed. There's a ceasefire going on right now. We will still leave our U.S. Navy ships to kind of blockade, or at least, watch the Strait of Hormuz, but ceasefire is going to be on for who knows. For now, it's indefinite. No ceasefire or no more firing in the Middle East. Still seems like there's a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. So that's like the macro picture here. And obviously all the traditional media news are picking that up as the reason for Bitcoin going up, which in some respects is probably why the price is going up. There are multiple factors going on right now, and they are all converging on Bitcoin. But let's look at this NASDAQ report, because I think there is a lot of signal here. This is on NASDAQ.com, and it's titled Bitcoin's Quiet Grind Higher, Institutional Bitcoin Goes Mainstream, which is, again, I've been sort of saying it, that if you're looking at the Bitcoin price right now, it is this slow grind higher. Though, if you looked at the charts this morning, the candle we saw, the aggressive move over into 78, 79K, we're almost at 80K. We might be at 80K by the end of the day, 80K by end of the day, or we're all, you guys know the end of the meme. So it's an interesting aggressive move this morning. It could be because of the Iran ceasefire, but I think there's something else brewing underneath that has fundamentally shifted what we're seeing right now. And there are a lot of people on Twitter right now essentially saying the classic, it's going to go up in April, but it's going to go down in May. The, sell in May, go away. And I am going to maybe prematurely take a victory lap and give the bullish take here. In contrast to the Bears, Nico's not here, so we're going to get bullish today, okay? We're going to make fun of the Bears a little bit today, though I might be a little early because I could be wrong, but that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, let's break this down. I did highlight a few portions. A lot of the stuff in here you probably don't necessarily need to read, but here's the short of it, the highlights. Bitcoin clears 76K on thinning supply and net positive ETF flows, with positioning data still far from crowded. Read another way, there is not that much action truly happening yet. But what we are seeing is extremely positive. And when everyone piles in, things can get absolutely crazy. Now, maybe that's what we saw this morning because this was released a couple of days ago. We could be seeing that catalyst point. Anyways, going further, as institutional heavyweights continue to embrace Bitcoin, distribution, and I'm going to highlight that word. We got to remember that word. Distribution will likely determine who wins, which is essentially what I was saying yesterday in the context of Morgan Stanley scaring BlackRock with their ETF, why they seem to go out there now. They're a little more bullish. They're trying to, I wouldn't say corner the market, but they're trying to maintain their market share. And I think the Morgan Stanley ETF, I think it sent a shiver down their back, and they're like, oh, wait, we are not the clear winner in this game. It's not over yet. A new incumbent could potentially make a good run for the money. Anyways, at the very bottom, it does mention strategy and stretch, which is, as I've been covering the last week or so, just absolutely insane and mind-blowing how much capital is going into stretch, how much Bitcoin strategy is buying. It's literally, like I said, sailor or strategy could very much be the reason for why the Bitcoin price isn't in the, doldrums. It's not in the 40, 30K or whatever the ridiculous price prediction Nico did. So here is the whole article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll just read this highlight. It goes, Bitcoin battles back. And I highlighted one portion of this segment. It goes, the implication is that this move is not driven by speculative excess, which we've been covering. It reflects a market transitioning from recovery into a potential expansion phase, supported by steady institutional demand, improving macro conditions, and relatively conservative positioning, which is everything we've been covering on this show for pretty much since the war started. Now, the next portion here is called From Exposure to Integration, Bitcoin Becomes a Portfolio Building Block, which we heard yesterday from Jay Jacobs, the head of digital assets at BlackRock, and of course that one Charles Schwab guy that I was kind of trolling yesterday. My bad, bro. Anyways, the highlighted portion here is institutions are continuing to build around Bitcoin, moving beyond simple spot exposure and into a more complete product ecosystem. I did cover the basis trade. This is not exactly what it's talking about here. As we saw with the IBIT ETF, with the kind of technicals of the Morgan Stanley ETF, it's not just a cut and dry spot Bitcoin play. It's as it said, quote, a more complete product. And here we go in the end of this segment, quote, our opinion is that the institutionalization of Bitcoin will not be about inventing new products, but industrializing ones that already work for traditional assets. Fees, liquidity, operational strength, and especially distribution will be the most important factors. As that framing takes hold, it becomes easier for institutions to underwrite, allocate, and scale, expanding the addressable market more than any single product launch. Now, part of this does make me feel like it essentially said in Wall Street terms, a lot more paper Bitcoin. But I think the real point, or at least the point that I want to make here, is what it says at the very end. Expanding the addressable market more than any single product launch. Hence why when we saw Morgan Stanley launch their ETF, the first U.S. bank, we were making the case that this is big news. Yes, it's another ETF, but they have tens of thousands of financial advisors out there, millions of clients using Charles Schwab, of course, trillions of dollars that they control. And they're essentially saying, hey, if you're slightly bullish on Bitcoin, you probably want to put 22% of your portfolio into it. So you're seeing the scale here. And I think this is what NASDAQ is essentially saying by the term distribution. That it's not so much about being the biggest asset manager in the world. It's about how many people listen to you for your advice and how much assets you are actually controlling and your influence and your infrastructure and how easily you can basically plug in Bitcoin and get Bitcoin to all of these people. Now, that is the fundamental difference from a BlackRock and a Charles Schwab. You guys all know the story by now. We've said it like 5 times in the last week, but almost everyone, and obviously not Bitcoiners, but when it comes to a more traditional TradFi trading friendly platform, like Charles Schwab is the go-to place for this. So now that they are basically at a flip of a switch going to add Bitcoin into their trading platforms, it's almost in some respect the same exact thing that Jack Dorsey did with Block when he just unleashed Bitcoin payments to every single Bitcoin merchant. The number was somewhere around 4 million. We're seeing the same thing happen, but on the trading side. Now, obviously, we are not traders. We do not recommend trading. But as you can tell, these clients want Bitcoin, and they literally just flipped a switch, and now they can get it. Now, the end here is maybe where it confirms what they said in the title, this slow grind higher, and I didn't highlight it, but within macro assets, performance has obviously been mixed. Gold is essentially flat on the week. Oil has declined, reflecting some easing in geopolitical risk premia. Credit markets are stable, relatively stable, with both investment grade and high yield posting modest gains. Rates move slightly lower, with long duration treasuries up on the week, while real yields edge down marginally. That's just giving you a macro context. Against this backdrop, though, Bitcoin's relative strength suggests continued incremental demand supported by both improving risk sentiment and asset-specific flows. The magnitude of the move, while constructive, remains consistent with a grind higher rather than a disorderly rally, aligning with broader indications of still cautious positioning. So just to break that down, essentially in Bitcoin terms and mimetic terms, it's essentially saying, look, you're not going to see an Omega candle tomorrow. If that's what your thesis is right now, if that's what your play is right now, that, oh, tomorrow it's going to, we're going to see a 100K candle. That's not what it's saying. That's not what the data is showing us. That's not what the interest levels are coming from the institutions. Essentially, I think what we're going to see is a more orderly, as they called, grind higher, which we have seen in the last couple of weeks. Again, I showed you a trend line. It held up pretty good. It's actually doing incredibly well right now. The interesting part about this is that we did see a pretty aggressive move this morning going into the 78, 79K range. And a lot of people are waiting for a breakthrough of the 80K range. And if we do see that either today or by the end of the week, and we see it with relatively strong volume, whether it's ETF inflows or spot Bitcoin directly, it could fundamentally change where we are right now. And that's where I'm going to kind of lean into a little bit more of the fun tweets that we're seeing, a little more of the Bitcoiners taking victory laps. But before I get to that, I do want to just show you the amount of Bitcoin shorts that were liquidated. I have it here. Sorry, my browser just keeps updating. Here we go. This is the one. So this morning we saw $76 million in Bitcoin leveraged shorts liquidated in the last 4 hours, and we got to $79,000. Again, we've been seeing this play out for the last couple of weeks, that finally we're seeing the leverage shorts get cleared out, and it's not the leverage longs getting cleared out. And historically, what we usually see is the market makers, first of all, they know the order books. They know where all the liquidity is sitting. They clear that all out so that we can start to register our next moves up. And this is where it starts to get a little fun. Okay, this is not necessarily memes, but some funny tweets here. We got Magoo. The bears are sweating. Gotta love to see it. You gotta love to see it. Here's Checkmatey with a little more on-chain metrics, less of just trolling. And he goes, the bears absolutely hate this rally. I don't believe we have ever seen anything quite like it in Bitcoin history. And he is referencing a Bitcoin perpetual futures funding rate. And as you can see, it's absolutely lower than ever. The bears in disbelief. I saw a Luke, but here we got Bram, our boy Bram. Eli 5 for the noobs, please, sir. And he goes, rolls are paying 6% interest rates to stay leveraged short corn as we speak. They are paying interest to be liquidated short. Oh man, love to see it. And then we have another one from Checkmate. And he goes, just to make a point, and this is where I really wish Nico was here, because we could kind of make fun of him a little bit. Here we go. Just to make a point, for the bears who want to see 40K, you may well well, end up right. Hey, you may be right. We may see some more price action to the downside. I actually got a text this morning from my friend. Is like, any reason not to buy? And I'm like, well, I mean, obviously always buy, but we could still see a classic sell in May and go away scenario. But on that term, it does look like we're breaking out a little bit. Anyways, however, consider that on a mean reversion basis, the average relative to 9 anchors, a mix of technical, on-chain, trend, fast, slow, etc., it is a quantile, I think, quantile of 0.4 event. And that's lower than thinking that in 2011, Bitcoin was going to go to $2, which is over here, which it in fact didn't do. So just putting that in context in past cycles of where we are. The boy Marty Bent, quoting Checkmate, he's like, I like a hated rally. I don't know how anyone could be bearish Bitcoin considering how it's performed since the beginning of this war in the Middle East. Demand for a neutral and permissionless monetary network controlled by no one has skyrocketed. And that is backed up by the idea that the institutions, they want Bitcoin. I think they're seeing what we're seeing. They're probably feeling the pressure of like, man, this thing's getting a little bubbly right now. It's getting a little frothy. Maybe it's going to get away from us. They have been in control for, I would argue, probably over a year, at the very least 6 months. Now we're starting to see maybe they're not going to be able to keep the price down as much as they want. Marilyn Hoddle just confirming, hey, sell in May and go away might very well be canceled this year. Prepare appropriately for that idea, which is kind of what the NASDAQ report said. Hey, we might not be seeing explosive price action here, but we might be watching a slow grind higher as Bitcoin goes mainstream by the institutions. It starts to really catch fire on Wall Street. This could be the case. Here we got another one. We got Jesse Myers. Update. Bitcoin bounce out of the oversold, rallying against gold. Every time this has happened in Bitcoin's history, it was the start of a 2+ year bull run. Sorry, I'm speaking weird. You can see here it actually went lower than we've seen in a very long time, and now we are rallying back up. So guys, it's a little too early to call that we are completely out of the woods. But the idea, I think, still remains the same, that the majority of people right now, especially, and I don't mean to really, pile on here, but especially led by the likes of Ben Cohen. He's been getting a lot of flack over the weekend or the last couple of days because he's been saying it's going to go up in April and then it's going to drop in May. And he very well could be right. So I don't want to come out here and really bash him because I could be completely wrong. He could be completely right. But we are starting to see that it seems like the majority of people right now are really have that in their mind. They really think that we're going to go lower again. April is going to be a bear trap. We're going to fall lower, buy it lower in May. It's not that complicated. And I did see a pretty funny meme. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I didn't put it to my show notes, but I think a meme would explain this better than me trying to ramble about what the meme is saying. But this is my exact thoughts here when I pull this meme up for you guys. This is what I'm starting to get the vibe of in this idea. Here we go. Here is the meme that is really top of mind for me. Quote, I'm going to short at 84K and then log off until the bottom at 40K in August. And it's the Buzz Lightyear meme of all the Buzz Lightyears saying, I'm such an individual. I am so different. And a lot of people have been saying that. This is kind of, I think, the general idea for most of the bear case here. Again, I saw some other interesting tweets that at first you're like, they're trolling, right? And it was our boy Checkmate. He's like, wait, Bitcoin's going up. It's not October yet. What's going on here? Everyone is thinking that the bottom of this bear market is going to be until October. And yet what we're seeing right now is exactly what NASDAQ has said in this report, a slow grind higher. I don't know. I think with the Bears might be in disbelief. Obviously, I am as bullish as anyone. I am overly bullish. I know my bias. I have a half is glass full type mentality here. But if I show you my lines here, and I don't want to do TA because I can probably guess you're already yelling at me because we're talking about price today. But hey, there is other news, but I thought this is probably the more fun news today. Is feels good to get a little bullish again. Okay, so I'm going to relish in the fact that we're a little bullish today. But the breakthrough that we saw, the movement that we saw this morning, almost going to 80K, is a lot of signal here. If you believe in the idea that watching the price does tell you a lot about what the market thinks about Bitcoin, how the market is allocating capital. I'm of the opinion, and I know a lot of people disagree with me in the chat and on any other Bitcoin perspective, that like the price is the least interesting aspect of this. I take more of a, I guess, classic Austrian economics perspective, that the price is the most interesting aspect because the price is the most important signal into the market. It tells you what people believe. It tells you how people are allocating money. It tells you, how you should be allocating your capital. Tells you where we're going to go. And the breakthrough right now, it's not a full breakthrough, obviously. I think there's still a little time. It is a little premature on our celebration. But if we get up to the 80K range, and if we don't dump in May, couple of ifs, I don't think we're going to be in a bear market till October. And maybe I just want that because I want Nico to be wrong on that. He called the top. I don't want him to be right about the bottom either. Okay, we gotta take a little W here, guys. We gotta get a little win here. It's time. It is time. I think it is time. Opti, give us fun. Okay, we're gonna have a little fun. Yes. All right. You guys like the meme. Okay, the meme hit. Let's go. So look, I don't want to say it. I actually tweeted this morning. I'm like, no, in all caps, nobody effing say it. Like, nobody say it, guys. Let's not say it yet. But we're all thinking the same thing, right? If you're bullish, we're all thinking the same thing. We all want to say it, but I think we need to hold our breath a little bit here and not start to congratulate ourselves of exiting this bear market, because the bears could very well be right. We could very well be in a bear trap right now, but that could fundamentally change. It could. We're dumping since Opti talking price action. Damn rip, boys. No, we're not. We're still above 79K. Well, actually, yeah. The 1 minute chart does look a little brutal. Okay. The 1 minute chart, it's confirming what you're saying, but we're still holding on, man. We are still holding on. So we made it. No, dude. No, it's too early. It's too early to say that. It's too early. This is the Big Short moment, like just don't dance. Guys, let's not dance yet. Nobody say we're never going to see X again. Nobody say this time is different. Okay, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but it does start to make me feel a little bullish. It really brings to mind right now what I said in the opening of the hook, that a lot of people might be caught, with their pants down. They might be caught surprised here of what the next move is going to be, because the reigning sentiment for most people is bear trap, sell in May, go away. This rally is not going to make it. It's a classic disbelief moment for everyone. And I'm still in disbelief, as you can tell. I want to be bullish. I want to say that it's over. We made it. But I'm even hesitant to say that. All we know is, hey, is there really any reason right now why you shouldn't be buying any more Bitcoin? Not really. Unless you have a bunch of capital that's been sitting on the sideline, unless you've been sitting in dollars and you're trying to wait for like the perfect entry point, and you don't want to dump all of your capital, all of your money in at this exact moment, maybe it's like a DCA moment. But also, if we are actually not in the bear market as we thought it was going to be, which is until October, you've already missed about a 30, almost 40% move from the bottom. It's really like 30-ish, but a lot of people are waiting until 83, 86K, and that's like a 40% move off the bottom. Now, the good part about all this is you don't actually have to time the market well. But I mean, time in the market beats timing the market. So you already know what I do. I capitulate my fiat as quickly as possible. He looks like he has 1,000. No, dude. It's hot in here. I had enough coffee. I'm excited. I'm getting a little bullish. I really, really want to be like, we made it. We're out of it. We're not going to be going sideways till October. But I'm trying not to celebrate a little early. But where do you buy those safety glasses, bro? I'm getting cooked. All right, I can't look at the chat. I can't look at the chat right now. I'm getting cooked. I don't know, guys. Let me know in the chat what you guys are feeling. Maybe we'll do a little sentiment vibe here in the chat on the commercial break, so that I can see what you guys are feeling here, and maybe we'll chat about it a little later. Anyways, for the rest of the show, I actually have a few different data points here to the idea of things going mainstream. So there was a new clip on Stephen Colbert. I'm not even the biggest fan of his, but it's the Reddit CEO, and it just makes me feel like things like we're in a different arena now in terms of how people are accepting of Bitcoin. Obviously, Stephen Colbert is a comedian, so he's going to roast us. And on the one hand, it's also proving that we are still early. I will have a couple of updates about the Warsh confirmation hearing. There is a new report about the Clarity Act where things stand. I know I'm tired of the Clarity Act too, but it's also saying exactly what I'm saying. If it doesn't get passed at this point by mid-May, it's probably cooked. And then in the culture, an interesting thing is happening, which is investors that are literally popular, that are content creators, that got popular for investing in real estate and other stocks and equities. They're making some interesting moves, and they are starting to allocate into Bitcoin, which might be a suggestion of a greater trend that we have seen growing in the last couple of years, which is Bitcoin has crossed that Rubicon into people's minds that this is something you need to hold. It's something that needs to be a part of your portfolio. You can no longer ignore it. It's no longer just a Hail Mary bet. This is what you need to have. And so if you're not holding Bitcoin, if your financial advisors are not recommending holding Bitcoin, you're really missing out on what we believe to be the greatest generational run wealth transfer that the world will ever see. So that's a breakdown of today's show. Let me hit the quick commercial break and I'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right. Whoa. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. My software's bugging out on me, bro. We really need to update this. They keep doing stuff on the back end. Let me see. Is this better? No. Oh man. Okay, whatever. We'll just deal with it today. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is 78,810. Okay, so maybe the price did dude, I'm totally going to have to take responsibility for this. I know I was saying I shouldn't be saying these things, and I think the algos picked up that I was saying them. So that's on me, guys. That's my bad. Anyways, the discount from all-time high is 37.5%. The market cap is at 1.58 trillion. 1.58 trillion. I guess maybe if we don't see 58K again, at least we're seeing $1.58 trillion market cap. The block height is 946,212. And like I was saying, let me see, this better work for me. Okay. Like I was saying, there's a recent clip going around of the CEO of Reddit, or co-founder of Reddit, Alexis Onanian. And he's on Stephen Colbert, which, used to be super popular. Kind of lost a lot of that popularity here. And there's two things that I want to essentially highlight in your mind before I play the clip. Is one, his explanation of what Bitcoin is and where it sits in the broader picture, I think is absolutely great. Now, the flip side from the Colbert host angle is that he's still trying to ridicule Bitcoin and this idea of Bitcoin. So it just shows you we're still early. But the fact, again, that this conversation is happening, I think might be the main signal here. Overton window shifting and all that good stuff. So let's play the clip real quick and then we'll kind of laugh about it. Good luck. Oh, man, you got to love it. Got to love the skepticism. Guys, we're still early. We're still early, guys. Confirmed, we are still early. Anyways, in context of this, I looked up how many people still actually watch Stephen Colbert's new show, roughly around 2.4 to 2.7 million people per episode. So look, as much as we try here to get to 2 million people per episode, we don't even come close to that. As you can see, the message is getting out there and maybe in ways that they're even trying to ridicule us about this. But again, put everything in context here. We have institutional interest into Bitcoin. We have a nation state interest into Bitcoin. We have obviously media talking heads, mainstream media talking heads, people that historically have been fixtures into the culture talking about Bitcoin. We are starting to see that all the foundations are being built out to fundamentally change how Bitcoin is being perceived by other people. Now, in the past, I remember in 2017, when I completely fell in love with Bitcoin, was completely obsessed with Bitcoin, we all had this idea that what we're seeing today is where we were in 2017. Obviously, we were wrong, though 2017 did have an incredible bull run in terms of price. Sorry, guys. I'm hearing weird stuff in here. I thought it was like an animal dying. In 2021, we also had this idea that Bitcoin was a lot bigger than we probably were. And then we had a lackluster bull run. And then in 2025, something similar happened. We saw all the institutional interest, or rather maybe the opening of the gates for institutions into Bitcoin, and we all expected an absolutely huge bull run. Now, if you kind of put all those different bull runs into context, you're starting to see that we literally have taken every element of the last 3 bull runs, and now we have all those stepping stones combined into what potentially is the end of this bear market. We have everyone talking about Bitcoin. We have Wall Street all freaking chomping at the bits, trying to get as much Bitcoin from you. We have on the verge of potentially, the rules to be on our side. We haven't really dropped that much. It's a little less volatile. We have Saylor doing things we've never seen in the past. And yet everyone thinks like it's over for us. And I'm just looking at all this. I'm like, no, I think we're seeing the perfect setup here for something that we thought was going to happen in the past. And by the kind of mocking nature of Stephen Colbert, it just makes me know that, one, I think in terms of people understanding what Bitcoin is, we are still early. And then 2, another thing that I've been saying for a lot of times on this episode is that when Bitcoin does, hopefully what I think it's going to do in this next bull run, everyone's going to come out and be like, why didn't you guys tell us more? Why didn't you guys yell at us more about this Bitcoin thing? You guys are greedy hoarders. There's going to be some negative press. There might be some people that are a little more humble about it. And then on just the more extreme side, I think we're going to get to the point very soon where all the people that hated Bitcoin use Bitcoin without them even knowing that they're using Bitcoin. And that's when it fundamentally shifts and things are just completely different. Obviously, we don't know the timeline on this. It could be a few years from now, could be 5-10 years from now. Though I do actually kind of agree with one thing that Stephen Colbert said. If we do get through the next 3 years here, we're good to go. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin, the network's going to die. I'm just saying if we can skirt by a hair some form of a global recession, I think we're all going to be very happy. You're going to be very happy that you are obsessed with Bitcoin, that you are living like an Amish person, that you're eating ramen, that you're stacking sats, that you're obsessed with this thing. I think it's going to pay off. But hey, I've been wrong on my timing before. But I don't know, man. It's starting to feel very good. It's starting to feel like things are definitely going our way. Guys, is this what winning feels like, guys? I am waving the early flag, bro. I'm trying not to. I really am trying not to, but man, starting to get a little bullish. That's because my TA astrology's just been on point, but Bitcoin profits were ignored. True. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. We're going to give you a couple of updates from the confirmation hearing yesterday for the new Fed chair, and then Alex Thorne for Galaxy Research dropped a full breakdown of where we currently stand on the Clarity Act. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm extremely tired of talking about this, but this is obviously kind of the big conversation, at least coming from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And let's just see if it happens. All right, I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledden's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledden's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledden. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Sorry, guys. I was checking myself out the camera. Okay. Okay. All right. So as I was telling you guys yesterday, actually, like pretty much right when we were on the show, the congressional hearing for Fed chair confirmation was happening. I played you guys to Senator Lummis back and forth with him, where he basically said, you know, digital assets are already a part of the fabric of the financial system. But obviously, since we're live on the show, I didn't have a full breakdown of where we stand. And I guess for a lot of Bitcoiners, you probably don't really care about what's going on with the Fed, and I don't really blame you. But there is some interesting developments, or rather some interesting statements that he said. And also there was some interesting kind of backlash from a lot of people. So I'm just going to highlight a few people. Oh man, it's happening again. Anyways, we have Eleanor Terrett, of course, from Crypto America, and she goes, "Warish on debanking. Politics have no place, not just in monetary policy, but in supervision and regulation. If central bankers should stand for anything, it's to resist fads, resist trends, call balls and strikes, and that's exactly what I would intend to do." Now, obviously, this might be like a very benign statement, but if the new Fed just literally called balls and strikes, that would be fundamentally different than what we've seen in the past. So that would be pretty huge. Here we got another statement. Warsh telling or just committed to Senator Bernie Moreno that he won't have the Fed move towards a CBDC if he's confirmed, and it's within his power as chairman to do so. He also said he agrees that the Fed does not have the right to issue a CBDC, and it would be a bad policy choice. So again, doubling down on no CBDC in the U.S., obviously a good thing. And there's actually a very interesting trend that we're seeing from my boy base layer, Fernando. He dropped this tweet from his Perception, Bitcoin Perception account. And, oh wait, actually wrong one. And I think this is some very interesting perspective in the context of what we saw. 3 regulatory signals in 48 hours that nobody connected. 39 European financial institutions demanded emergency fast track for blockchain pilots. The UK published its stablecoin payments framework. Bank of Korea's new governor pushed CBDCs and deliberately skipped stablecoins. The read, Europe is pushing for speed. The UK is building payment rails, and Korea chose the government-controlled path. Same tech, 3 completely different strategies, all announced in the same week. Now add the 4th one from Warsh, the new Fed chair, or, you know, Fed chair nominee, basically said like no CBDC, which you could argue that, you know, something that is pegged to the dollar could potentially be that, but you already know what I'm saying. Anyways, here is kind of a summary of it. Kevin Warsh just laid out his stance on the Fed. 1, cost of living is a top issue right now. Well, of course, he can say this now, but they're probably going to print a lot of money. Actually, they we are starting to see QE is happening currently as we speak with Treasury buybacks. So the cost of living is probably going to go up. Anyways, next, the Fed has made policy errors and, quote, lost its way. I guess I could agree with that. I could also make the point that this is what it was meant to do since its creation in 1913, but I digress. Number 3, calls for fundamental policy reforms, says he will be independent of Donald Trump. That one's probably cap. Says presidents usually push for lower rates. I think he said he wants lower rates too. Doesn't believe in forward guidance, says inflation data being used is imperfect, which I totally agree with that. Claims tariffs are not the main driver of inflation. So interesting takes. Where'd my... Oh, I deleted it. Sorry, guys. I'm pivoting over to the Clarity Act here. Since, we're talking what the politicians want. Here's Galaxy.com, and this was published this morning. Clarity Act update, final push ahead. The odds of passage this year are roughly 50-50. Guys, did I not basically say this? Actually, I've been more bearish. I'm like, it's probably not going to happen. Anyways, uncertainty stems not from any single issue, but from the number of unresolved questions that must be settled in sequence under severe time pressure. With time starting to run out on the 119th Congress's calendar, comprehensive crypto market structure legislation is nearing the end game stage. Of course, the Clarity Act passed the House in July of 2025 with strong bipartisan support and has been the subject of intensive Senate negotiations since January. The Senate Banking, House, and Urban Affairs Committee is expected to announce a markup hearing this week, likely for the last week of April. So remember what they said? Let's fact check here. The prevailing narrative was we're going to get the markup by Easter and the bill is going to get passed by the end of April. Well, it seems like we might get the markup bill by the end of April. We'll see. Anyways, 3 key issues remain unresolved, according to Chairman Tim Scott: stablecoin yield language, DeFi provisions, and securing all Republican votes on the committee. Several additional issues, including the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act's treatment of non-custodial software developers, ethics provisions related to government officials' crypto holdings, and SEC-related concerns, also remain live and could complicate the path forward. It's not looking so hot, guys. Anyways, in our view, the odds of Clarity being signed into law in 2026 are roughly 50-50 and possibly lower, though others at Galaxy are more optimistic. The uncertainty stems not from, again, any single issues, but unresolved questions. I think there was a quote in here. Maybe it's from the Twitter post, but it basically said something on the lines of, if this doesn't happen by mid-May, it's probably not going to happen at all, which is something that I have been relating to you guys. And I'm not even, that political to be completely honest with you. But, check out the headline: importance of passing Clarity before midterms. We've been on this for a minute. I know there is a lot of optimism that this will pass, and maybe not so much about what's in the Clarity Act, but the fact that once it passes, capital will start to flow back into Bitcoin from these big institutions. But I think everyone's starting to realize that the clock is ticking. It is, the 11th hour here, maybe the 10th hour. I don't know how we can really quantify that per se, but it keeps getting pushed back, guys. And now I think everyone's coming to the realization that if this does continue to be delayed, if we don't see this markup structure bill next week for the last week of April, I'm going to pretty much drop my I'm blanking on the word. My expectation of the Clarity Act passing to damn near zero. It's probably not going to pass. So if a lot of people are waiting for the Clarity Act to pass to start to allocate capital, we might be seeing a sell in May and go away scenario. It's over, boys. Nothing ever happens. It's over. Here we go. Let's see. It says Senate Banking Committee was widely expected to announce this week that it's scheduling a markup hearing for the last week of April. However, key committee member who has been leading negotiations on the stablecoin reward said Monday that the committee should wait until May before scheduling a markup. Okay, so that's where I saw it. I couldn't remember where. So we're not even going to get the markup by the end of April. It's probably going to be in May. Again, once a markup is scheduled, the committee must debate and vote on amendments before advancing the bill. A floor vote requires not just 60 votes to invoke cloture, but also time for debate and amendment votes, which can take a week or more. Here we go. Finally, someone says it. Someone finally says it. The Senate's working calendar between now and the August recess is limited and contested. Chambers in session through the end of April, then breaks until May 11th, works May 11th through the 22nd, works 3 weeks each in June and July with a 2-week recess around July 4th, and works the first week of August before departing for a 5-week recess beginning August 10th. Within that window, Clarity must compete for floor time with several major items. The ongoing Iran military authorization debate, which has already consumed significant floor time and could escalate unpredictably, the unresolved DHS funding standoff, and a steady stream of judicial and executive nominations. Gotta love this breakdown. Finally, someone says it. So you heard the timeline there, guys. That's why I've been extremely bearish on this passing, because once they go on recess, they're going to come back and it's going to be the midterms. They're going to ramp up the midterms. That's going to be all the conversation. Crypto, Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it, is going to get thrown out the window. I think even if Republicans are able to maintain their position, they're not going to talk about it for the rest of the year because, they got to make sure that they maintain their seats. So there's the timeline. Not bullish on it. It's probably cooked. But what can we expect from Washington, D.C., I suppose, at this point? Anyways, we're gonna have a little lighter mood here, and you guys might not necessarily like this one. It is Bitcoin, and it is bullish in terms of the cultural zeitgeist, what the culture thinks about Bitcoin. But I can already hear you guys saying, like, who cares about this guy? But I think it's a data point on how the average person thinks about Bitcoin, and it's fundamentally shifted. As Nico used to always say, the Overton window. It's all about shifting the Overton window. Opti, you're saying too much crazy stuff. Don't scare them. Don't break the Overton window. We want to shift the Overton window. Well, maybe Nico is right, and the Overton window has finally shifted in our direction, and a lot of people are starting to wake up to the fact that Bitcoin isn't going away. It might, in fact, be the best thing to invest in or hold. Might be the best asset to hold. Might be the best money to hold. You probably want to allocate a little more to it than you already do. If you're not already 150% triple maxi, like Sailor says, or whatever it was. But I do like this guy's podcast, and he built his brand, his media company, on the idea of being a sound financial advisor, a sound financial diversifier. And now we're starting to see that Bitcoin is a part of that conversation. So I'll be right back, and we will chat about it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI, humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEDigitalTech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
Hey guys, this one's going to be fun, for at least for me personally, because obviously I make media, and one of the things that we do, in fact, do here on Simply Bitcoin is we do look at everyone that makes content. We don't necessarily just compare ourselves to other Bitcoin content creators. We like to think bigger here and look at what the very popular content creators are doing. And of course, maybe we can learn a little bit from them, because, hey, they're successful. They know what they're doing here. And I saw this post. It was actually kind of broken last week, and it is Graham Stephan. And if you don't know him, he has the Iced Coffee Hour podcast with his partner. I forget what his partner's name is. And he's more of like the conservative guy on the show, where he like invests everything. He's, I don't want to say stingy, but he's very frugal with his money. It's got to be based on like a mathematical equation of how much money you spend. It's like, it's big brain stuff here, right? And a lot of the interviews that they do on their channel, and of course they got 1.57 million subscribers. Their shows get millions of views here. His Twitter account isn't as big as the YouTube account. It's significant size, 211K. So maybe not everyone that saw this post or his Substack is the same amount of people that watched his stuff on YouTube. But I'm going to suspect, because I don't watch every episode, but I'm going to suspect that he has or will be making a video about this and what his reasonings are. But I'm going to give you the TLDR here. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's extremely long, but there is a fundamental shift here. And I actually have this conversation with my friend constantly. He's always like, I'm making a lot of money. I just got to make a little more money. I want to make sure I get a couple of real estate investments, investment properties, so I can get my cash flow, bro. And I'm just like, cool, man. Do what you want to do, man. Just he's a Bitcoiner. He knows Bitcoin, but he's got this, I need the cash flow from the real estate mentality still in his head. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm happy for you, and man, what can I tell you, man? Just like, do what you want to do, bro. He already knows what I'm going to say. I'm like, you should take all that money and buy Bitcoin, bro. But, my cash flow. Anyways, here's Graham Stephan's tweet. And he goes, last week, I made a post about selling my entire real estate portfolio, and it went absolutely viral with over 3 million views. But a lot of people ask me, if you're exiting real estate, where is that money actually going? Again, he says it's a fair question. For over a decade, his whole entire identity as an investor was tied to real estate and rental properties. But this mindset that built my initial wealth isn't serving me in 2024. I want to reiterate that. But this mindset of basically being a real estate investor that built his initial wealth isn't serving me in 2026. Between insurance costs doubling and the legal landscape becoming a nightmare, the math no longer works. I repeat, the math no longer works. So here is the mindset I'm using for the great rotation. I'm prioritizing simplicity over prestige and complexity. Look, I know I sound very stupid with this Valley Girl accent, but I be telling you guys the same thing every single day. You got to risk it for the biscuit. The old paradigms don't work in today's world. If you want to be successful, you cannot do what people of the past, even 10 years ago, were doing. And there's a lot of people that are financial gurus that are essentially telling you a playbook that no longer works. The math doesn't math anymore. And here we have a very popular young kid. I think he's like 30 something, maybe 35 or something like that. I forget. I don't watch all of his content. I'm just like more vaguely aware of who he is. I've caught some episodes. I think they're really, production's really great. They're really good. They're also very conservative in their investment kind of advice. But even them are starting to realize that what has worked in the past is no longer working. It doesn't work today. It's not serving you in 2026. Anyways, I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you want to find this, you can read this. But he said, I've just posted the complete line-by-line breakdown of my new 2026 portfolio on Substack. I'm covering exactly how I'm allocating the real estate proceeds, my increased Bitcoin position, again, increased Bitcoin position, and even the collectibles that are keeping pace with the S&P 500. He's going to drop the link. So here is the blurb here for the Bitcoin perspective on why he's increasing his Bitcoin portfolio. Again, he's selling his real estate because it's not serving him. He is going to go into some stocks and equities, and he's increasing his Bitcoin perspective. So I'm going to read this for you guys. And it goes, Bitcoin and the institutional shift. One of the biggest opportunities for 2026 is an asset I previously kept as a tiny position, Bitcoin. All right, before you set your mind against it, hear me out. My thesis used to be, quote, if it goes to zero, my life doesn't change. If it works out, I retire my bloodline. Honestly, Chad, super Chad. Anyways, while Bitcoin is down significantly from its peak, it has shown remarkable resilience in 2026. As institutional participation grows through ETFs, the catastrophic drawdown narrative is beginning to shift. Analysts are now arguing that Bitcoin is functioning more as a portfolio efficiency tool than a speculative bet. With national debts climbing and governments running massive deficits, the asymmetric upside of Bitcoin is becoming too compelling to ignore. I look at it as a probability play. There may be a 50% chance it becomes worthless, but there's a 50% chance it hits $250,000 in the next 5 years. If that was a bet in Las Vegas, I would take it. But that's exactly how I would treat it too, as a high-risk asymmetric bet where I would allocate my money more cautiously. Given that inflows have turned positive for the first time since October 2025, I'm increasing my allocation. It's better to take a calculated risk on a volatile asset than to hold zero exposure to the fastest growing institutional asset class of the decade. I got to give him some horns for that one. So you can tell he's not full-blown Bitcoin maxi yet. And I really don't expect him to be that. But remember, this segment in particular is the culture. And part of what I like to do, and it's obviously because it's my job, but I look around at what's becoming popular in the culture, in the zeitgeist, in the collective consciousness of just the average person. I look at who they're listening to. I watch what they're doing. And then I start to see the shifts of what are they starting to recommend. And like I said in the beginning of the show, we're getting to the point now where the big kind of influential people right now are starting to very slowly pepper the Bitcoin thesis, the Bitcoin narrative. He's literally selling his real estate that he built his wealth on. And he's like, look, I'm looking at the landscape. I'm going to increase my Bitcoin position because it's actually probably a really good bet right now. And I want to bring that again in the context of what we saw yesterday from the Charles Schwab video, the educational video, where they're using the very same kind of rhetoric that you just need to adjust your risk here, that depending on your risk tolerance, depending on how much risk you want to take, this is how much you should allocate your portfolio. Again, that's a different conversation of don't take any risk here. Stay in the 60-40 portfolio that's been working forever to now actually maybe you need to add a little bit because the math just works out a little better. So I'm ranting here just to essentially say that what has worked in the past no longer works today. And even in his initial post, simplicity over complexity. It still blows my mind that for almost everyone, just buying Bitcoin, taking into self-custody is the simplest process ever on paper. It's like literally just sell your dollars for Bitcoin, hold that Bitcoin for a long term, make sure you secure it. And that is the easiest and best thing you can be doing with your money. And then everyone looks at you or mocks you like Stephen Colbert, and they're like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? What are you doing with magic internet coins and magic internet friends? And why are you so obsessed with this thing that we don't know who created it? And you can't even touch it. It's not even real, bro. And you're just like, all right, hey, it's literally like, what's that Back to the Future meme, maybe I'm too early, but your children will love it. What, dude, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel the culture. Maybe the collective consciousness raising a little bit. They're starting to wake up, guys. They are starting to wake up. This is what winning feels like. We've been seeing the signs. And I've been very early on this idea of Bitcoin, not like patting my back on the head in that statement, but maybe I was a little too early to the idea that Bitcoin is crossing the mainstream Rubicon. We're going from the what is it, early adopters into the early majority, and we don't know how long that takes. But as you see, the writing's on the wall. You're starting to see signs from every corner of the culture of society that they are starting to look at Bitcoin as a more serious thing. Obviously, everyone goes through their stages where they look at Bitcoin as an investment. Maybe it's an asymmetric bet. I think even us Bitcoiners kind of take that initial view like, well, it's just a good bet. Like, it's either going to zero or it's going to 1,000,000. It's like, I'll take that bet. And then you kind of put more of your net worth into Bitcoin, and then eventually the price starts running, and you start to realize, wait, I need to put as much of whatever I can into Bitcoin because it's going to the moon. And then the cycle plays out all over again. And you're like, damn, I shouldn't have bought the top, but I'm going to sell all my shares on the way down so I can accumulate this. And then you're hooked and it's over. And you're here with us hanging out. You're making fun of Opti and Nico every single day. You're yelling at me to be correct about everything. And we're just waiting for the world to wake up. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it to you guys, okay? We're not going to say it. But I'm seeing the signs, guys. I'm starting to see the signs. I had to hide the chat. You guys were distracting me. Get him off the stage. All right. Okay. All right. I got the hook. I got the tomatoes. Yeah, I mean, Foxy, I kind of agree with that. He's cooked. Foxy don't say. All right, guys. Anyways. Yo, I love the chat. Okay. All right. Okay. That's it for today, guys. I've ranted enough. Ranted for an hour and 10 minutes. Think I'm losing the plot. It's like 100 degrees in here down in South Florida. My safety goggles are getting fogged up. I ain't got nothing left for you guys. Nico should be here tomorrow. I really want him to be here tomorrow because I want us to debate something. But anyways, on that note, have a good rest of your day. What do I always say? Have a good rest of your day. Get some sun. Get a workout in. Eat some good food. Call your loved ones. Put down the phone for a little bit. And of course, the most important thing, stack some Bitcoin. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another show. Should have stayed in Texas. Bro, I thought Texas was hot. Nah, man, the humidity down here is crazy, you guys. I don't know how people live in a swamp. It makes no sense. No wonder Florida man's a lunatic. Now it's all clicking. That's why you hear about Florida man, not just because it's a swamp person, because living in the swamp makes you lose your mind. Okay. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. This is your boy Ofty, and this has been Simply Bitcoin Live. Until tomorrow, peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.